I never did like shopping the day after Thanksgiving. All them people acting like the world's ending if they don't get a half-price toaster oven, shoving and hollering like hogs at slop time. But that year, the lining of my old Carhartt had finally rotted clean through, and the wind off the French Broad was cutting me in two every morning when I fed the chickens. So I waited till the worst of the crowd thinned out, till nearly closing time at the Belk in West Asheville, figuring I could slip in, grab a coat, and be back home before the parking lot turned into a fist fight. Store was mostly empty by 8:30, just a few stragglers poking through the picked-over racks and a couple tired-looking clerks straightening hangers. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying June bugs. Christmas music had been playing since 6 that morning and sounded about as cheerful as a funeral dirge by then. I found a dark green barn coat on the clearance rack. Lined, heavy duck, looked warm enough to stand in a creek in January, and headed toward the fitting rooms in the back corner. The men's dressing area was down a little hallway that smelled like new plastic and old carpet. 6 stalls, 3 on each side, all open except a big handicapped one at the end. That one had the only 3-way mirror in the place, an old heavy thing with thick glass and ornate brass corners that probably came over from the original downtown store when they moved out here in the 80s. I always hated those mirrors. They make you look wider than you are, shorter too, like somebody squashed you a little to fit the frame. I hung the coat on the hook, shut the door, and turned around to shrug it on. That's when the air changed. Not colder exactly, thicker. Like walking into a house where somebody's been burning green wood all day and the smoke just hangs. The overhead light flickered once, then held steady. I caught my reflection straight on first. Tired eyes, 2 days of beard, flannel shirt with a bleach stain on the sleeve. Normal enough. I slipped my arms into the coat, zipped it halfway, and turned to see the back. All 3 of me kept facing front. The 2 side mirrors showed me full forward, same as the middle one. No angle, no back view. Just 3 identical faces staring straight ahead like I hadn't moved at all. I laughed under my breath, figured the glass was warped worse than I thought, and twisted harder to see the collar. They didn't twist. I stood there a second feeling foolish, waved my right hand. The real me waved. The 3 in the mirror didn't. Just watched, calm as cows. My stomach did a slow roll. I told myself it was tiredness, maybe a trick of the light, and stepped closer to the center pane to check the fit across the shoulders. The middle me finally moved. Not with me, on its own. Slow, like it had all the time in the world. It lifted the empty hanger off the hook, the one I'd left hanging there, and held it up like a baseball bat. The face didn't change, same tired eyes, same bleach stain, everything. But the mouth turned up just a hair at the corners, the kind of smile you give when you know something the other person don't. I felt every hair on my arm stand straight. My feet backed up before my brain gave the order, heel catching the little stool in the corner. I grabbed the door handle, yanked it open, and stumbled out into the hallway still wearing the coat. Didn't stop till I was halfway across the men's department, heart hammering so hard I could taste iron. The clerk, skinny girl with purple streaks in her hair and a name tag that said Kayla, looked up from folding sweaters. "Y'all right, sir? You're white as milk." I couldn't answer right away, just shook my head, shrugged out of the coat, and dropped it on the counter like it was hot. "Changed my mind," I croaked. "Don't fit." She gave me an odd look but didn't argue. I headed for the exit, boots thudding too loud on the tile. Couldn't help it, had to look back one time. The fitting room door was still open. All 3 of them were in now, standing shoulder to shoulder, trying on the coat. Same slow, careful, the way you do when you're making sure something is yours for keeps. Middle one zipped it, left one checked the cuffs, right one ran his hands down the front like it enjoyed the feel of the fabric. Then, together, they looked straight out at me and smiled the same small smile. I walked out without my receipt, without my old coat even, left it draped over a rack of flannel shirts. Drove home in my shirt sleeves with the window down and December air knifing through the cab just to feel something real. I figured that was the end of it. Told myself mirrors play tricks, especially old ones, especially when you're warped plumb out. Bought a new coat at the tractor supply the next week and tried to forget. But forgetting don't come easy in these mountains. First time it happened again was maybe 3 weeks later. I was in the bathroom at the house shaving before church. Little round mirror over the sink my daddy hung back in '78. I wiped the steam off with my sleeve and leaned in to get under my nose. The me in the glass kept wiping long after I stopped. I froze, watched my reflection finish the motion, slow and deliberate, then set the towel down and stabbed back. Same small smile. Then the glass fogged back up on its own, like somebody breathing on the other side. I ain't shaved in that bathroom since. Use the kitchen window now when the light's right. It kept happening. Gas station window at night, black screen on my phone when it goes to sleep, side of the stainless toaster at the diner. Anywhere the surface is dark enough, polished enough, I catch them. Sometimes just one, sometimes all three. Always wearing that green coat I never paid for. Always smiling like they know I'm watching. Last Tuesday I had to go back to that Belk for new boots. Mine finally split at the weld. Place was near empty, middle of the week. I told myself I'd stay to the main floor, grab what I needed and get out. But the boots I wanted were in the back corner, right past that same hallway. I walked quick, eyes down. Didn't work. The pull was like a fish hook behind my ribs. I found myself standing in front of the open fitting room door before I knew I'd turned. The mirror was still there. Brass corners tarnished black now, glass wavy and dark. And they were waiting. 3 of them, lined up neat, wearing the coat buttoned to the throat even though the store was warm. Faces pale, eyes bright. The middle one lifted a hand and pressed it flat against the inside of the glass. The other 2 did the same. Then, slow, they leaned forward till their foreheads touched the mirror from their side. The glass bulged just a little, like thin ice under too much weight. I backed away till my shoulders hit the opposite wall. My breath came in little puffs, though I couldn't feel the cold. They stayed there, palms and foreheads against the glass, smiling that same patient smile, waiting for me to come try the coat on again. I left the boots on the floor and walked out, haven't been back. Some nights I wake up and the bedroom's full of new cloth smell. I'll sit up in the dark and see the green coat hanging on the back of my chair where I never put it. When I turn the lamp on, it's gone, but the hanger's warm. I don't look in mirrors anymore. Cover them with quilts when I can, turn them to the wall when I can't. But there's always something, shiny pot, still water in the sink, the glass front of the wood stove, that shows me what I don't want to see. They're still trying it on, taking turns, making sure it fits just right. And every time I catch them, the coat looks a little more lived in, a little more like it's been wonged on long walks down empty roads, through briars and creek bottoms, places I ain't been in years. I reckon one morning I'll wake up and it'll be hanging in my closet for real, clean, ready, and I'll know it's time to put it on. Because a coat that fits 3 ways is bound to fit a 4th. And these mountains keep what they take. They just take their time about it.
I still take the long way home, even when it adds 40 minutes and burns gas I can't afford. Folks think I'm just stubborn or scared of ice on the switchbacks, but the truth is simpler. I won't put my truck on Black Hollow Road after the sun goes down. Not ever again. Most nights I leave the mill at 11 sharp, clock out, nod to the guard, and swing wide around the mountain on 64 till I hit the 4-lane, then crawl back up toward Murphy like a man with all the time in the world. Because the one time I tried to save those 40 minutes, something took them from me anyway. It was early December, the week the cold finally decided to stay. I'd pulled a double shift because Tommy Lee called in sick again, which around here means hungover. By the time I walked out, the fog had rolled in off the Hiwassee thick as quilt batting. You couldn't see the hood ornament if you leaned out the window. I let the truck warm 5 minutes, heater blowing lukewarm, then eased onto the state road that cuts over the ridge. Black Hollow is the shortcut everybody uses. 12 miles of tight curves and drop-offs nobody bothered the guardrail. Locals call it the Devil's Spine, but only when they drunk enough to laugh about it. I'd driven it 1,000 times, knew every pothole, every place the yellow line disappears. So when the fog swallowed everything, I just dropped to 30 and kept the center line under my left tire. Radio was nothing but static that far back in the hills, so it was just the engine, the wipers slapping every few seconds, and the sound of my own breathing. I remember thinking how quiet it was. Too quiet. No crickets, no dogs barking off in the hollers, not even wind. Just the fog pressing against the glass like it wanted in. Something moved across the road. Fast, low to the ground. Could have been a deer, could have been a bear cub, could have been nothing at all. Reflex made me tap the brakes and glance up at the rear view to see if it cleared the shoulder. The mirror didn't show fog. It showed bright, hard sunlight pouring down through orange and red leaves still clinging to the ridges. Blue sky, not a cloud. The blacktop behind me was dry, steam rising off it like after a summer shower. And my truck, same rust-colored 96 Chevy, same cracked dashboard Mary Magdalene air freshener hanging from the mirror, was rolling along steady, maybe 45, kicking up little puffs of dust. But the driver's seat was empty. No head, no shoulders, just a seatbelt hanging loose like nobody ever buckled it. The truck was driving itself. I slammed the brakes so hard the rear end fishtailed, tires howled. Coffee in the cup holder sloshed over my hand, hot enough to burn, but I barely felt it. The truck stopped sideways across both lanes, emergency lights clicking on by themselves. I sat there gulping air, staring at the mirror. The sunny road stayed a second longer, long enough for me to see the empty cab drift around the next curve and disappear, then snapped back to black night and fog. My hand shook so bad I could hardly get the truck straight again. I told myself it was tired eyes, tricks of light, maybe the dome bulb reflecting wrong. Anything. I rolled forward slow, afraid to look up again. But you can't drive these roads without checking your mirror. Every time I did, the picture flickered. 10 seconds of fog, then 2 seconds of sun. Fog, sun, fog, sun. And every time the sun came, the truck was still there, still driving, still empty. I started sweating even though the heater was barely working. Kept waiting for the other me to show up in the seat, wave, smile, something, but it never did. Just that hollow cab rolling along like it knew exactly where it was going. Once, when the sunny stretch lasted longer, I saw a paper cup in the passenger seat. Waffle House cup. I'd been empty in my real truck for 2 days. Another time, I caught a glimpse of the odometer. 187,412. Mine read 187,398 when I left the mill. 14 miles ahead of me. I don't know how I made it to the stop sign at the bottom of the hollow. I sat there a full minute with my foot on the brake, blinker clicking left toward home, afraid to look again. When I finally did, the mirror was dark and full of fog and showed my own white face staring back. Normal. I floored it the last 8 miles, took the curves too fast, gravel rattling in the wheel wells, didn't slow till my porch light came into view. I left the truck running in the yard, keys still in it, and slept with every light in the house burning. Next morning, the battery was dead, and there were muddy footprints on the driver's side floorboard that weren't there when I parked. Small prints, bare feet. I got the mirror out with a flathead and a hammer, wrapped it in a feed sack, drove it down to the river before the sun was fully up, and threw it as far as I could. Watched it sink in the slow brown current below the old iron bridge. Felt better for about a week. Then the new mirror started doing it too. Not all the time, just sometimes when the fog rolls in thick and the dogs won't come out from under the porch. I'll be driving home on 64, minding my own business, and glance up to check traffic. For half a heartbeat, the glass clears, and there's Black Hollow Road in bright daylight, leaves blazing, my truck rolling easy around the curves. Empty. Always empty. And always a little farther along than the last time. Last Thursday, it was waiting at the stop sign where Black Hollow runs into the highway. Just sitting there, blinker on, patient as death. Sunlight pouring through the windshield onto nothing at all. I locked my doors and stared straight ahead till the light changed. When I looked again, it was gone. I ain't been sleeping much. I keep thinking about those extra 14 miles on the odometer I saw that first night. Keep wondering where the empty truck went after it rounded that sunny curve and left me behind in the dark. Keep wondering if it's still driving, looking for a way back onto the real road. Sometimes, when the fog sits heavy in the valley and the house creaks like it's sitting into its own grave, I hear an engine far off. Old Chevy V8, little miss in the third cylinder, same as mine. Coming closer, slow, never hurrying. I don't look out the windows anymore. I just sit in the kitchen with the shotgun across my lap and wait for the porch boards to groan under weight that ain't mine. Because one of these nights, the fog's gonna lift just enough, and that truck is gonna pull into my yard with the lights off. Door will open, bare feet will hit the ground, and whatever's left of me that didn't make it home that night is finally gonna walk up the steps and ask to be let in from the cold. I reckon I'll open the door. What else can a man do when he's already gone?
I hadn't meant to stay in Chattanooga long, just long enough to finish the mural contract on the south wall of the old Loveman's building and pocket the check. But the money was good, the loft was cheap, and the mill building, big red brick monster squatting beside the river, had a feel to it I couldn't shake. 6 stories of busted out windows patched with plywood, freight elevator the size of a boxcar, floors thick with 100 years of cotton dust that still floated up when you walked. They turned the top 4 into apartments for people like me, artists, bartenders, folks running from something back home. I took the 3rd floor corner unit because the light was decent and the rent was half what I'd pay in Nashville. Most nights I came in late, smelling like paint thinner and the Walnut Street Bridge fog. The passenger elevator had been gutted years ago, so everybody used the freight lift. Big steel cage, accordion gate, buttons worn smooth. Somebody long ago bolted a floor-to-ceiling mirror to the back wall so the night watchman could see if anybody was riding up behind him. Mirror was old, wavy in places, silver back and flaking like fish scales. I never liked looking at myself in it, always looked thinner than I was, eyes sunk deeper, like the glass was borrowing pieces of me. That night it was raining hard, the kind of rain that comes sideways off Lookout Mountain and needles your face. I'd been up on the roof with a 6-pack and my neighbor Delia, talking about nothing important, watching the river lights smear across the water. Around 2, she went back to her place, and I rode the elevator down alone. Hit the button for 3, leaned against the rail, listened to the cables groan. Doors rattled shut, the cab gave its usual lurch, and then didn't drop. It moved sideways. Not a sway, not a bump. A smooth, deliberate slide, like the whole building had been picked up and shifted on some hidden track. The floor numbers above the door blinked 3, 3, 3, then went dark. The light inside the cab flickered once, twice, steady to a sickly yellow. I felt it in my teeth more to my stomach, a pressure like going underwater too fast. Then the doors opened. Same hallway, same scuffed concrete, same flickering exit sign at the far end, same smell of wet brick and old cotton lint.
Except it wasn't. The overhead bulbs were out, and what light there was came from nowhere and everywhere, thick and amber like late afternoon sun filtered through dirty water. The air looked heavy, rippling the way heat does off asphalt in July. But it was cold, cold enough that my breath showed. And there I was, standing just outside the doors. Same paint-spattered hoodie, same two-day stubble, same stupid tired slump to the shoulders. He looked wetter than I felt, hair plastered to his forehead like he'd been out in the rain longer. His eyes were wide, pupils blown, the way yours get when you see something you can't unsee. We stared at each other across the threshold. The elevator floor and the hallway floor lined up perfect, no step down, no gap. Just one continuous slab of concrete running straight through the mirror on the back wall. He raised his right hand, slow. I felt mine lift without me telling it to. Palms almost touching, separated only by the open doorway. I could see the callus on his thumb where I hold the brush, the little scar on the wrist from a box cutter last year. Same, all same. Except his sleeve was torn at the cuff, threads hanging loose. The doors on his side started closing. Not mine. Mine stayed open, gate rattling like it wanted to move but couldn't. His began sliding together with that same tired groan I'd heard 1,000 times. His face changed, panic, real and sharp. He lunged forward, mouth open and in a shout I couldn't hear. I moved at the same time, some instinct older than thought, and grabbed his sleeve to haul him through. Cloth tore like wet paper. The doors slammed on his side. The cab lights snapped bright white. The sideways feeling stopped, and the elevator dropped normal, cable singing. Landed on the lobby with a tooth-jarring thud. Doors opened onto the real hallway. Flickering fluorescents, mailboxes, the smell of somebody's burnt popcorn. I was holding a strip of my own hoodie sleeve, 6 inches long, frayed edge still dripping river water onto the concrete. Warm, body warm. I stood there a long time. Long enough for the elevator timer to ding and the doors to try closing on my shoulder twice. Finally, I stepped out, hit the call button over and over until the cab came back empty. Rode it to 3. Walked my hallway. My door was still locked from the inside, chain on. Nobody had been in or out. That strip of cloth is still in my pocket. I can't make myself throw it away. Sometimes when I'm painting late and the building's quiet, I take it out and hold it. It's always warm, always damp. And if I squeeze it just right, I swear I can feel a pulse in the fibers that matches mine, but a half beat off. I avoid the elevator now, take the stairs even when my knees scream. But the mill's old iron staircase echoes something fierce, and sometimes when I'm halfway down, I hear the cab moving on its own. Cables creaking, gate rattling, sliding sideways again. I don't look back, just keep walking till I hit the lobby and the night air slaps me awake. Delia moved out last week, said she kept waking up at 3:13 a.m. to the sound of someone breathing on the other side of her bedroom wall, slow and patient. She asked if I'd heard it too. I lied and said no. Truth is, I hear it every night, not through the wall, through the bathroom mirror when I brush my teeth, through the black screen of my phone when it goes dark, through the window glass when the street lights flicker. That same steady in and out, waiting. Sometimes when the rain comes sideways again and the river's high, I stand at my own door and listen. I hear the elevator ding on my floor. Gate opens. Footsteps, one set, coming down the hall toward my apartment. They always stop right outside. Never knock, just stand there, breathing, that half beat behind mine, waiting for me to open up and let what's left come home. I keep the chain on, for now. But the sleeve in my pocket is getting longer, another inch last week, threads knitting themselves together while I sleep. Warm, always warm. And some nights I wake up with river mud between my toes and no memory of leaving the bed. If you ever move into the old mill lofts on Chestnut Street, 3rd floor corner unit,
and you find a torn strip of gray hoodie in the closet that won't dry no matter how long you leave it in the sun, burn it. Or don't. Either way, take the stairs. And whatever you do, don't look behind you in that freight elevator mirror when the cab starts moving funny. He's still trying to get the rest of the way through. And he's learning.
My grandma died on a Tuesday in March, the kind of raw, wet day when the mountains look like they cry in mud. She'd been fading slow for months, lungs giving out the way old porch boards do, one soft spot at a time. So it wasn't any shock when the hospice nurse called. Still hit me harder than I expected. I'd spent half my childhood in that little house up the holler outside of Manchester, running barefoot through her garden, listening to her stories about haints and signs and what you do and don't do when somebody passes. The funeral was small, just family and a handful of church ladies who brought so many casseroles the refrigerator looked like a potluck exploded. After we put her in the ground up on the ridge beside Grandpa, we all went back to the house, because that's what you do. Somebody has to sort the life out of the rooms before the bank or the cousins or the damp gets it. Me and my cousin Travis drew the short straw for Grandma's bedroom. Nobody else wanted to go in there. Said it still smelled like her, Vicks Vapor Rub and the rose water she dabbed behind her ears every night since 1952. Truth was, it did smell like her, and that made it worse. The bed was still made up tight, corners tucked the way she liked, quilt folded at the foot because she always got hot around 3 a.m. Her Bible lay open on the nightstand to Psalm 23, a crocheted bookmark holding a place like she might come back any minute and finish reading. And there was the dresser. Big, dark walnut thing with claw feet and a mirror taller than I am. Ever since I could remember, that mirror had been draped with an old white sheet, yellowed at the folds, pinned in place with straight pins so it wouldn't slip. Grandma never explained it much, just said, mirrors get hungry after a death, best to keep them covered till the soul's settled. We all thought it was old people talk, superstition, the kind of thing you smile at and forget. Travis never forgot anything that could be turned into a dare. We were boxing up her clothes, smelling like cedar and age and her, when he nodded at the dresser. Bet you $20 you won't pull that sheet off. I've been wondering what she was hiding all these years. I laughed, but it came out thin. Room felt colder than the rest of the house, even though the kerosene heater was chugging away in the hall. Ain't about money, I told him. It's about respect. He snorted. She's gone, Lottie. Ain't gonna know. I knew he was wrong about that. Grandma always knew. She knew when I stole a cookie, when I lied about finishing my homework, when I kissed Tommy Caldwell behind the barn when I was 15. Dead or not, some knowing don't stop at the grave. But I was 26 and full of that brittle kind of grief that makes you stupid. And Travis kept pushing, the way cousins do. So I stepped over a box of lace handkerchiefs, reached up and pulled the pins one by one. The sheet whispered down like it was relieved to be free. The mirror was dusty, spider-webbed in the corners, but the glass itself was still clear. For a second, it was just us reflected back. Me with my red-rimmed eyes, Travis grinning like a jackass, the room behind us exactly the way it was. Bed, quilt, Bible, the little porcelain praying hand she kept on the windowsill. Then, the room in the mirror moved different. It was subtle at first, like a twitch you catch out the corner of your eye. The quilt shifted just an inch. The Bible pages fluttered, though there wasn't any breeze. I blinked hard, thinking dust or tears. But when I looked again, Grandma was standing behind us. Not creepy, not floating or bloody or monster-like, just Grandma. Hair down her back in that long silver braid she wore to bed, wearing the navy dress we buried her in, the one with the tiny white flowers she called forget-me-nots, even though they were clearly daisies. She held her old boar bristle brush, running it slow through her hair the way she did every night, counting strokes under her breath. 1 to 100, never missed a number. I felt my mouth go dry. Travis hadn't seen yet. He was digging in a drawer for who knows what. I couldn't make words come. In the mirror, she turned, slow, and looked right at me. Smiled the same soft smile she gave when I brought her May apple blossoms or when I fell asleep on the couch watching her with her. She raised one hand and beckoned, finger curling, gentle, like, "Come here, darling, let me fix your hair." I took a step before I realized it. Travis turned then, saw my face, followed my eyes to the mirror. The grin slid off him like grease. Jesus Christ, Grandma's lips moved. No sound came through the glass, but I heard her anyway, inside my head, the way you hear somebody you love real close. "Come here, Charlotte Rose. I've been waiting." My hand lifted. I watched it happen like it belonged to somebody else. Fingertips touched the mirror, and the cold hit me so hard my knees almost buckled. Not just cold, wrong cold. The kind that lives under river stones in January, that burns worse than fire. My breath fogged the class, but on the inside, where her breath should have been. Her hand came up and covered mine. Palm to palm, but backwards. Her skin looked soft and powdered and real. I felt the ridges of her lifeline pressing against mine, the little callus she had on her ring finger from 60 years of wearing Grandpa's band. She pulled, not hard, gentle, the way she used to lead me across the creek when I was little and scared of slippery rocks. But gentle don't mean weak. My shoulder popped. Pain shot down my arm and I jerked back hard. Travis grabbed my waist and yanked at the same time. Something cracked, loud, like green wood in a stove. We tumbled backward, hit the rug, box of handkerchiefs spilling everywhere like snow. When I looked up, the mirror was spiderwebbed from the center out, one long crack running top to bottom. And in the middle of that crack was a handprint. 5 fingers splayed, small and narrow like a woman's, except it was on the inside of the glass. Travis started cussing and wouldn't stop. I couldn't make a sound. My hand was red, throbbing, already bruising in the shape of fingers that weren't mine. We covered the mirror again, shaking so bad we stuck ourselves half a dozen times with the pins. Didn't matter. By the time we got the sheet up, the crack had grown another inch, like whatever was behind the glass was testing the seams. We left that night. Told Aunt Linda the house was too much. We'd finish later. She didn't argue. Thinks she felt it too. I took the mirror. Couldn't tell you why exactly. Part grief, part guilt, part something older that lives in these hills and don't need a name. Loaded it in the bed of my truck under a tarp and drove it home to my little place outside Hayesville. Set it up in the spare room I never use, facing the wall. Covered again with the same sheet, then a quilt, then another quilt for good measure. But mirrors remember. First morning, I went in to get an old photo album and the sheet had slipped, just one corner. The crack had spread another hand width, and the handprint was clearer. You could see the swirls of a fingerprint now. Second morning, the sheet was on the floor. Crack ran corner to corner. The handprint had company, a second one, lower, like she was pressing with both palms. Third morning, I woke to the sound of brushing. Soft, steady strokes, 1 to 100. I ain't been back in that room in 9 days. Keep the door locked, key on a string around my neck. But the sound follows me. I hear it when I'm washing dishes, when I'm feeding the chickens, when I'm trying to sleep. Always the same rhythm. Brush, brush, brush. Sometimes I catch a counting in my head. 73, 74. Yesterday the power went out in the storm and I had to go in for the kerosene lamp. Couldn't help it. I turned the mirror around. The crack is a tree now, branches spreading everywhere. The glass bows outward in the middle like something pushing, and behind the fractures, she's still there, still brushing, but slower, tired maybe. Her hair is loose, wild.
The burial dress is dirty at the hem, like she's been walking a long way. She don't smile no more. She just watches and waits, mouth moving soft. I can read her lips now. Let me in, Charlotte Rose. It's cold in here. I don't know how long the glass'll hold. Some nights I sit outside the door with Grandpa's old 12 gauge across my knees, listening to her brush and count. Some nights I almost unlock it, thinking maybe if I let her through, she'll just want to sit a spell, warm herself by the wood stove, tell me one more story about the old days. But then I remember how cold her hand was. And I remember what she used to say when we asked why she covered the mirrors after a death. It ain't the dead you gotta worry about, sugar, she'd whisper, tucking me in. It's what's still walking that looks like 'em. The crack grew again this morning. I didn't even go in the room. I heard it from the kitchen, a sound like ice breaking on the creek in spring. Slow, patient, coming closer. If you ever come up my road and see a quilt nailed over a bedroom window, best keep walking. Don't knock.
I still don't talk about that night much, not out loud anyway. Folks around here already think I'm half-cracked from living alone so long up on the ridge, and telling them what happened at the Pine Ridge Motor Lodge would only seal it. But some nights, when the wind moves through the pines just wrong, and the dogs won't quit pacing the porch boards, the memory crawls back up my throat like creek water after a hard rain. I guess I need to set it down once, proper, before it eats the rest of me. It was late October, the kind of cold that sneaks under your coat collar and rides your spine all the way home. I'd been over in Knoxville settling my Uncle Ray's affairs. He'd passed sudden, heart just quit on him while he was splitting stove wood, and the lawyers kept me longer than they had any right to. By the time I pointed my old Chevy east on 40, the sun was already gone, and the mountains were nothing but black cutouts against the darker sky. 12 hours behind the wheel, maybe more. My eyes felt full of sand, and my back had locked up somewhere around Newport. When I saw the flickering neon of the Pine Ridge Motor Lodge, I didn't even think twice. Just pulled in, gravel popping under the tires, and told the night clerk I'd take whatever was clean. Room 7 was at the far end, past a row of empty parking spaces and a Coke machine that hummed like it was fixing to die. The clerk, skinny boy with a mustache that wouldn't commit, handed me a brass key that felt heavier than it should have had and said, "Mirror's bolted down, can't move it, sorry about that." I laughed, half dead on my feet, told him I'd slept in worse places than in front of my own reflection. He didn't laugh back, just looked at me like he was trying to memorize my face for a police sketch later. The room smelled like mildew and lemon furniture polish fighting a losing battle. Orange carpet, wood paneling halfway up the walls, one of those floral bedspreads that's been washed so many times the flowers look bruised. And there it was, a mirror taller than me and twice as wide, bolted to the wall directly across from the foot of the bed. No dresser under it, no table, nothing, just glass staring straight at the pillows. I remember thinking it was odd, but I was too tired to care. Kicked off my boots, peeled down to my t-shirt and boxers, and fell into that bed like I was falling down a well. I don't know how long I was out. Long enough for the hum of the heater to become part of my dreams. Long enough for the room to go from strange to familiar in that way hotel rooms do when you're exhausted. What woke me was thirst, dry as bone dust in my mouth. I sat up slow, head thick, and swung my legs over the side of the bed. The carpet was cold under my feet. Moonlight came through a gap in the curtains and laid a silver bar across the floor, straight to the bathroom door. I stood, stretched, and shuffled toward it, eyes half shut. That's when I saw myself, still lying in the bed. Not a dream, not a trick of the dark. I was standing by the bathroom door, clear as day, and there I was under the covers too, chest rising and falling slow, mouth slightly open like I always sleep. I stopped breathing for a second, thought maybe I'd had a stroke or something, that my brain was misfiring. But the me in the bed kept breathing steady,
and the me by the bathroom could feel the doorknob cold against my hip. Then the sleeping me opened its eyes. Not groggy, not blinking awake, just open, wide, fixed right on me standing there. I felt that stare like a hand closing around the back of my neck. My skin prickled all over, the little hairs standing up the way they do when a storm's coming. The thing in the bed didn't move anything else, just watched me with my own face wearing an expression I hope to God I never wear in life. Flat, patient, and hungry. I couldn't move, couldn't even swallow. All I could do was stand there while it sat up slow, blanket sliding off my chest. The moonlight caught the ridges of my ribs under the thin t-shirt, the scar on my left shoulder from when I was 12 and thought I could outrun a bobcat. It swung its legs over the side of the bed exactly the way I had minutes before, bare feet hitting carpet without a sound. Then it stood. I stood and started walking toward the mirror. Every step it took, I felt nothing in my own body. No echo, no twitch, like my nerves had been cut. I was rooted by that bathroom door, heart slamming so hard I thought it would crack a rib. It walked right up to the glass, close enough that its breath fogged my reflection's face. Then it raised its hand and pressed a palm flat against the mirror. I didn't feel a thing, no pressure, no cold glass. Just watched my own handprint bloom on the inside of the mirror like frost spreading. The eyes never left mine. And it smiled. Not big, just a little tug at the corners of the mouth. The kind of smile you give somebody right before you tell them the worst news of their life. Then it stepped forward. There was no ripple, no shimmer, nothing like the movies. One moment it was on the bed side of the glass. The next it was standing where I was standing, except I wasn't. I was still there, but I wasn't. The air changed, got thick, like breathing syrup. I tried to scream and nothing came out. The thing that used to be in the mirror took one step toward the bed, then another, moving like it had all the time in the world. It climbed under the covers, pulled them up to its chin, and closed its eyes. Chest started rising and falling again, slow and easy. That's when I understood. It had traded places. I don't know how long I stood there. Might have been minutes, might have been hours. The room didn't change. The heater kept rattling, the Coke machine outside kept humming its death song. But everything felt tilted, like the world had slipped half an inch off its axis, and nobody noticed but me. I walked, floated, more like it, to the mirror and looked close. My reflection was lying in the bed now, eyes closed, sleeping the sleep of the righteous. I raised my hand and touched the glass. It was cold, solid. My handprint stayed for a second, then faded. I tried the door to the hallway, locked, deadbolt thrown from the inside, and no key. Window was painted shut, and even if it wasn't, we were one story up with nothing but asphalt. I thought about breaking the mirror, but something told me that would be the worst thing I could do, like breaking a spider web and finding out the spider was already in your shirt. So I did the only thing left. I lay down in that bed next to it, pulled the covers up, closed my eyes. The mattress dipped under my weight, or whatever I am now, and I could feel the warmth where its body had been. I listened to it breathing beside me, steady, calm. I tried to match it, tried to fall back into myself the way you slide into an old coat. But every time I got close, something pushed back. A pressure behind the eyes, a heaviness in the chest, like the body was already full. Morning came bray and slow. I heard the maid's cart in the hallway, keys rattling. The thing beside me stirred, stretched, sat up. I watched it dress in my clothes, lace my boots, run my hair through my hair. It looked at me still lying there and gave that same small smile. Then it walked out, shut the door soft behind it, and I heard my truck start up, gravel popping as it pulled away. The maid found me an hour later, said she looked rough, asked if I needed a doctor. I told her I was fine, just overslept. Paid for another night, and another. Clerk stopped asking questions after the third day, just slid the key across the counter like he'd been expecting me to stay forever. I've been here ever since, going on 6 weeks now. Some mornings I wake up and for a second I think I'm back inside, that the thing got bored and left the door open. But then I catch sight of myself in that huge mirror and see the eyes are still wrong, still watching, waiting for me to get tired enough or crazy enough to lie down again and try one more time to crawl home. Sometimes, late, when the motel's quiet and the neon sign buzzes itself to sleep, I talk to it. Ask what, why. It never answers out loud, but I feel the answer anyway. It wants what anything lost in these mountains wants. To be warm, to be real, to go home. And some night, when the wind is right and the dogs won't quit crying at nothing, I reckon I'll be tired enough to let it. I'm so tired now. If you ever driving 40 west to Asheville and see an old Chevy parked outside the Pine Ridge Motor Lodge, room 7, lights still on this time of year, keep driving. Don't stop for the man standing at the window. He'll wave like he knows you. He'll mouth your name if he's learned it yet. And whatever you do, don't look too long at the bed behind him. There's room for one more. There's always room.
It was late October, one of those nights when the mountains feel like they pressing down on the highway just to remind you how small you are. I've been hauling drywall up to a job site in Wise County all day, then turned around and drove straight back toward Knoxville because the boss swore he'd have my check waiting Monday morning, and I was flat broke. By 3 a.m., my eyes burned like I'd rubbed them with sandpaper, and my bladder felt like it was about to split. Coffee can in the floorboard wasn't cutting it anymore. When that old Exxon sign flickered up out of the dark on Route 52, I almost cried from relief. Place looked like it hadn't been updated since Carter was president. One pump still had the old mechanical numbers, and the neon open sign buzzed like a dying wasp. Gravel crunched under my boots as I pulled in. Nobody at the register, just one of those bells you're supposed to ring for service that nobody ever answers. I didn't care about snacks or smokes, I just needed the bathroom. Door around back said men in chipped red paint. I pushed inside and the smell hit me. Mildew, cheap pine cleaner, and something metallic I couldn't place. Single bulb overhead, flickering every few seconds. Sink stained brown at the drain. And the mirror, one of those long rectangles cracked clean down the middle like somebody had punched it years ago and nobody ever bothered to replace it. I stood there taking the longest piss of my life, half asleep on my feet, then shuffled to the sink to wash up. Cold water shocked me awake a little. I looked up to check how bad I looked, and that's when it happened. My reflection blinked a half second late. I froze with my hands under the water. Told myself it was nothing, eyes playing tricks, bad light, whatever. I shook my hands dry and reached for my pocket to grab my keys. But in the mirror, my hand stayed on the faucet. The reflection me just kept staring, fingers curled around that rusty knob like he was waiting for something. I felt my pocket, felt the cold metal of my keys against my thigh, but the me in the glass didn't move. Then he smiled. Not a big smile, just a little twitch at the corner of his mouth, the kind you give when you know a secret somebody else is about to learn the hard way. I took one step back. The smile got wider. I don't scare easy. Grew up hunting these mountains, been in fights, seen a man get his arm torn off in a logging accident when I was 12. But right then, my insides went cold like I'd swallowed creek water in January. I turned for the door, grabbed a knob, and it wouldn't budge. Deadbolt was locked from the outside, I guess, or jammed. I jiggled it hard, slammed my shoulder into the wood. Nothing. When I spun back around, the other me wasn't at the sink anymore. He was walking away, deeper into the bathroom. Except the bathroom wasn't that deep. In the mirror, it stretched on, rows of sinks and stalls going back farther than the whole damn building. And through the little window above the urinals, I could see sky. Only it wasn't night anymore. It was red. Not sunset red, blood red, thick as house paint. No clouds, no stars, just that awful color pressing down. The reflection me kept walking until he reached a second door I couldn't see in the real room. He turned, gave a little wave like he was saying, "See you around, buddy," and stepped through. The door swung shut behind him. I lost it then, kicked the door so hard the frame splintered. Second kick and it flew open, and I fell out into the parking lot on my hands and knees. Gravel bit into my palms. Cold air hit my face like a slap. Behind me, the bathroom light was still flickering, but the door hung open normal. Mirror just a mirror again, cracked and dirty and empty. I didn't look long, scrambled to my truck, fired it up, and got the hell out of there. Didn't even shut the bathroom door, just left it swinging. I told myself it was a hallucination, too little sleep, too much caffeine, whatever. Figured by morning I'd laugh about it. But morning came and I still felt wrong, like part of me never left that bathroom. First few days I avoided mirrors altogether, shaved with my eyes closed, brushed my teeth staring at the floor. But you can't live like that forever. Eventually I had to look. It's subtle. Most people wouldn't notice. When I raise my coffee cup, the me in the glass hesitates just a hair before he lifts his. When I turn my head to check traffic, the reflection finishes the motion a heartbeat later. Sometimes I catch him watching me when I'm not looking directly at him. Not angry, not threatening, just watching. Patient. Last week I was in the Food City bathroom washing my hands, and I saw him do something new. While my real hands were under the dryer, he reached up and touched the crack in the mirror that wasn't cracked on my side. Traced it slow, like he was feeling for a weak spot. Then he looked straight out at me and smiled that same little smile from the gas station. I ain't been back to that Exxon. Drove past once in daylight just to prove to myself it was still there. It was. Same cracked mirror hanging crooked in the window, same buzzing sign. I slowed down but didn't stop. Don't need to. I know he's still in there, walking deeper into that red-skied place, waiting for the glass to give just enough. Sometimes late at night when the house is quiet, I'll catch my reflection out of the corner of my eye, and he'll already be facing me before I turn, just standing there, waiting for me to catch up. I don't think he's trying to get out. I think he's waiting for me to go back in.